Hey y'all, want to give a quick update, or I guess a recap, on the BAM Toledo Bend Championship that we just had. I just got back in from it yesterday, March the 21st and 22nd, I believe it was. Anyway, I'm starting to get a reputation, at least in my head, for having a really great first day of a 2-day tournament. And then not just like an average second day or like, yeah, I could have done better, but a complete train wreck on the second day. So honestly, I'm going to do this these videos almost help me maybe work through what's going on with that. The same thing happened at Seminole earlier in the year. That was the early February, 4th place after day 1, and then goose egg on day 2. Anyway, just a real quick recap of how the whole thing went. I got up on Friday morning and I left town on Friday morning to head to the tournament. Rained the entire day on Friday, so when I got to the first ramp that I wanted to pre-fish just from looking at a map, and actually talking to a buddy of mine who said it was a good spot, pouring down rain, had been all day, and it was about noon, maybe a little bit after. Spent a couple hours. It was the back of Howson Bayou. Anyway, just a spawning flat, right? And I launched the boat. The water's pretty. The temperature's great, 63, 64 degrees. There's some submerged hydrilla. There's some pads. There's buckbrush. There's everything that you want from a spawning place, really on any body of water that you're at, right? So I fished around for about 2 hours, all the usual stuff. A swim jig, I threw a frog a little bit. I punched where I could. There wasn't a lot of matted stuff, but there was just some submergent grass. I flipped or punched into that. Didn't get a bite. Had one small fish kind of follow a swim jig back. There were a lot of carp that were back there that were spawning. A lot of carp, and just, there was a lot of activity, right? So I thought it was a good area, but I didn't get a bite. Anyway, after about 2.5 hours there, packed the boat up, kind of relocating, just driving around, right? And I'm going across a causeway that's kind of in the mid-lake area, and I see some cypress trees off to the right that kind of come out into the lake a ways. So I said, oh, that looks good. I pulled into a ramp. Happened to be some little cabins right there too, which wound up working out because I didn't have a plan for lodging for the evening. So I launched the boat. I worked my way around the causeway. There's a spawning pocket that, like, you see all over Toledo Bend with docks and just kind of flat pockets. I fished there for a bit. Nothing's happening. Head to the cypress trees, and probably the third cast I made on a tree. Caught a fish and it was good one, 17.5. 10 minutes later, boom, catch another one. It's 18. Another 5 minutes. Now it's getting late in the day and still raining, by the way. Catch another fish at 16. So we have to be at the meeting at, I think it was 7 o'clock, so I had to call it that, and that was my pre-fish. It was 2 different ramps that I went to. So to kind of shorten this down, I ended up, of course, fishing where I got the bites. And what they were, it was kind of a main lake area that was still protected from a north wind, right? So if you're looking at the, I think it's Highway 6 that crosses right there in Manny, across the main body of the lake. There's a point that's just south of that and on the west side of the lake, the Texas side. And if you come around that point, there's 3 different islands that have cypress trees. Now the lake was up, so there was actually 2 or 3 feet of water over the islands. I would imagine at normal pool they would be drier, just really, really shallow. So that's where I started out. I threw a covert spinnerbait, which is something that I just picked up, just got into. I've thrown a spinnerbait for forever. I mean, this is kind of what I learned to bass fish on. But these coverts are awesome. I started the first day on those trees, and the water was fairly clear. I used the double willow, 1/2 ounce covert. Everything came on that on day 1, and day 2 it muddied up, so I switched to the Colorado. Anyway, great day 1. Every fish that I put on the board, now I say great, there were 5 bites all day. They were all good though. In that 18, 17, and I think I had 2 15s for 4. And then the kicker, which was a little bit over 7 pounds, it was a 22¼ inch fish, actually came on a little pocket that was near those trees and I got that on a wacky rigged Berkeley General. If y'all have never thrown, that General is a really, really awesome Senko. It's one of the few that has that same kind of shimmy or quiver on the fall like a traditional, like the Yamamoto Senko does. A lot of stick baits, they look the same, they feel the same, but they don't have that little subtle shimmy, which is really what makes that Senko so special, and Berkeley was able to get that really durable worm too. So anyway, day one's in the books, and I'm wanting to focus on on day two, which is kind of why I'm glossing over day one. I didn't have any areas. Now, if I had caught 5, say by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock on day one, I would have been able to go practice. But I just picked up, had a limit, and just go look around the lake for day two. And honestly, after what I had, I mean, on day two, I thought, you know, if I can get 72 to 75 inches, I should be fine. It was 88 on day one. There could have been some change in there. I'll have to look. The dilemma that I was in, and I think this is really what gets me on the 2-day deals, is I had a great first day. I was able to just really, really fish that area. You know, I fished clean. I didn't lose any fish at all. Everything the bit came in the boat, got on the board, and got its picture taken. But you just never know if more are going to come, or you got to think, you know, did I catch them all? There were bass boats that fished around me all day. I didn't see anybody catch anything. But clearly the fish had been there for a while because people knew about them. You know, it wasn't like I was on this deal by myself. So the question on day two is, do I just totally start over and just ride around and try to find something? So what I decided to do was head down south and check out 2 ramps for about an hour apiece to start day two, and then head back to the primary spot for the remainder of the day. Because honestly, I don't think I had a fish until 10:30 on day one. So I started off day two, went down to Sandy Creek. Everything on the map looked great. I mean, it was just what you wanted. You know, there were cypress trees. It wasn't that same, you know, main lake deal. It was way back in the creek. But when I get there, the water is extremely dirty. It did rain all night Saturday night too, so I'm sure that didn't help. I fished there for about 30-45 minutes. I just wasn't feeling it, so I packed up and I left. I went to 6 Mile, which is another creek on the Texas side, just a little ways up. Everything looked great. Docks, spawning pocket, a lot of cover, a lot of, you know, there were brush piles in front of the docks. Fished there for about an hour. Didn't see another boat around, but also didn't get a bite. So now it's about, I would say 9:30. So I pack up. I've got a 30-minute drive back to Area 1. By the time I get back on the water at my first day area, it's a little bit after 10 o'clock. Put the boat in the water and started what I did. Now, it did get dirtier. The wind changed from the south and was blowing directly into that bank. And it did push some muddy water in, so I went to the double Colorado blades. Caught a fish about 11 o'clock, 16.5 inches, so I was like, okay, well, maybe I can salvage this after all. And until about 2 o'clock, nothing. I mean, I stayed with the spinnerbait. I switched up a bit. I flipped a jig. I threw a swim jig around. There were no boats in the area on Sunday either. I think that south wind is what really did that. There were some pretty good sized waves that were coming in on those trees, and if you fish shallow cover with big waves hitting it, that is not the deal that you want. So I said, well, maybe they pulled off into some ditches, you know, that were close by. So I went from that 3 feet of water to 5 feet of water, graphed around, didn't see anything. Finally, last ditch effort, I went to a spawning pocket that I'd seen on the map. It was just a long paddle from that first area, and I picked up that wacky rig again, caught a 13.5. Had another couple bump it, but didn't hook up. You know, there were some fish on the beds. I couldn't see him. It was cloudy. It was windy, and that was my day too. So that's a rundown of Toledo Bend and how quick things can kind of get away from you, even after you have a good first day. I don't want to say it's a curse, but it does make you think about things differently on day two. So that's something I'm definitely going to try to work on, and figure out where I've been going wrong with that. I know this was kind of long. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope it helps. That's kind of the point of this, trying to help myself, and maybe somebody could learn from it as well. Thank you all for watching.